As organizations globally embrace digital transformation, implementing a human capital management system has become very essential for maintaining competitive advantage. Statistics say that almost 93% of companies are planning to overhaul their HR systems within the next 3 years. My name is Swetha Sathiyam, and I am an implementation director with ADP Technology Services, and I've been in the HR transformation space for close to 15 years. Today, in this presentation, I'm going to offer a comprehensive framework for successfully deploying global HCM systems, focusing on integrating both machine learnings and AI-driven technologies, the buzzwords in the industry, on how organizations can choose to optimize their HR operations while balancing standardizations with local needs. Let us look at some imperatives before we really jump into the who, why, what of global HCM transformations. The modern HR ecosystem in organizations requires sophisticated systems that operate seamlessly across countries. Now, when I say global organizations, I'm talking about companies in multiple countries that are present in multiple countries where there are systems that are extremely fragmented and outdated HR technologies, and they face a very critical competitive disadvantage in the market in attracting, developing, and retaining talent in their space. By implementing a global HCM solution, organizations can establish standardized processes across their countries, across their locals, while also maintaining that regional flexibility and creating that equilibrium between consistency as well as adaptability that will help them get their workforce management processes in an excellent space that can drive good business outcomes. Like I said earlier, 93% of companies are upgrading, out of which 42% are really looking at efficiency gain in their HR operational processes. And almost 82% of them are moving into cloud-based solutions. And you will see the why behind it in a few slides here. Before we get into the start, let's look at the why do companies want to do global HR transformation. And some of this is to really required to build a compelling business use case at the outset. While there are many reasons that do that, sitting really at the top of the pyramid is a strategic value that comes out of HR transformations. These transformations not just elevate HR as a business partner, but they also add to the financial impact through reduced administrative costs, productivity gains. There is also operational efficiency when you implement processes such as streamlined workflows, reducing redundancies in your global operations, etc. And finally, at the base of the pyramid is where it powerfully unlocks data-driven insights for proactive talent management across the organization. And hence, keeping all of this in mind, securing your executive sponsorship demands that you articulate these value proposition so that it's not just a simple cost reduction technique, but it also impacts the organization tremendously. Effective business cases quantify how global systems drive these tangible outcomes in terms of workforce planning, enhancing your leadership decision-making capabilities, and also fundamentally transforming the employee experiences that sits at various points of the employee lifecycle. Successful implementations also require methodical stakeholder analysis and engagement across your organizations. It could be in finance, it could be in IT, operations, even within regional HR leadership. These strategic allies become very powerful advocates who can articulate the system's cross-functional benefits and help overcome resistance to change. Now, talking about so many people, how does the cross-functional collaboration framework and how does this need to work in a global HR transformation? Fundamentally, there should be stakeholder engagement, which means identifying and mobilizing who are going to be the key partners in your transformation process, and identifying a governance structure and clearly establishing who are sitting in decision-making power and who are in operational power and what are the protocols in the way they communicate. Also developing a responsibility matrix in terms of who's responsible for actions, who's actionable, who needs to be communicated versus who needs to be informed, and having a continuous alignment to revisit some of these governance and collaboration framework is of utmost importance when going through HR transformation exercises. Leading organizations also deploy purposefully built digital collaboration platforms for doing these implementations, where there is real time knowledge sharing, real time documentation sharing, systematic issue resolution through the course of your implementation, and also a comprehensive decision documentation process that is dispersed geographically, ultimately driving accountability for not the headquartered locations, but also all the other localized countries that are a part of the implementation in the transformation journey itself. AI plays a big role when it comes to HR transformation as a process because AI has a very powerful risk mitigation strategies that can be utilized. Some of these include predictive risk identification. They can analyze implementation patterns across similar organizations so that it be able to forecast issues before they emerge, right? Real-time monitoring. There are algorithms, machine learning algorithms that can continuously look at system interactions to detect any sort of anomalies and indicate, hey, these are areas where problems may be occurring. And then finally, data quality is an area where AI plays a very powerful role, where there can be automated data validation tools to ensure the information integrity is maintained during your data migration efforts in a transformation process. Some of these AI-powered risk management, it represents a paradigm shift from being reactive in your implementations to being extremely proactive. And this really helps and boosts program governance at the outset. We're going to take a tangential shift from the why and into what our global organizations are moving towards in the HR transformation space. Like I traded earlier, almost 82% of organizations in the world are now moving into the cloud-based space. And why is that shift, right? Why are organizations choosing cloud-based instead of on-premise, which has been the preferred solution of the 90s and the early 2000s? Because the SaaS-based deployment, the subscription-based, eliminates the access for on-premise infrastructure, right? Companies don't have to maintain in-house teams to support the infrastructure, have expensive own servers to host the data of these large organizations. Scalability becomes a very obvious answer because there is instantaneous resource allocation that flexes with your growth and demand, especially after a pandemic world where organizations are growing and retrenching in waves and crests as the economy boosts and economy falls. Scalability becomes very powerful, and hence cloud-based systems are a preferred choice. The infrastructure management, vendor-maintained environment, there are seamless updates to SaaS-based architecture. You don't have to have the system down while opting for these cloud-based systems is also ensures zero downtime. And finally, cloud-based systems offer a very powerful security framework. Almost all these cloud-based solutions, such as Workday, SAP, Oracle, Cloud Fusion, they give a very extremely robust security frameworks for global organizations that's going to help them with end-to-end encryption and granular access controls that suffice locally. Forward-thinking organizations are really implementing these hybrid cloud strategies that secure highly sensitive personal data in private clouds while also simultaneously leveraging public cloud infrastructure for enhancing processing. So there is a sort of hybrid cloud that large organizations are preferring so that that is something that is quote unquote that seems like in-premise, but they are private clouds. So the data and the security is very well maintained. This balanced approach also creates a good equilibrium for these really large organizations between an ironclad security protocol and robust performance metrics throughout their HCM ecosystems. Also, let's talk a little bit about data governance and regional compliance as an imperative, because when it comes to global HCM implementations, data governance framework has become paramount. Effective global implementations require sophisticated frameworks that comply with regional requirements. Organizations must build systems that respect local privacy regulations while enabling consolidated workforce analytics. Hence, also the cloud-based system becomes an imperative because data governance and regional compliance is much more easier to administer in a cloud-based infrastructure. Advanced implementations include data sovereignty solutions that maintain information within the geographical boundaries where they need to be housed, required by law, while also providing that access for global functions. In addition to data governance framework, machine learning capabilities for these HCM cloud-based platforms are also one of the other preferred area where clients are navigating or attracted towards. Advanced machine learning capabilities elevate our HCM systems performance from just being traditional data repositories into strategic advisors. These AI powered systems or use predictive analysis. There is intelligence behind the scenes that gives them valuable information of how their workforce is performing, where are their areas of focus for HR as a strategic function. Market leading organizations are also implementing talent analytics that achieve higher retention rate. There are performance improvements in the workforce, and there are also higher employee engagement scores that are being reported with the use of these cloud-based technologies. This transformation really enables HR functions to pivot from time-consuming reactive interventions to high-impact proactive strategies that directly influences their business outcomes itself. So we spoke about the why and the what are they doing. Now let's move a little bit into how are global HR transformations really done. The fundamental core of how global HR transformations are successful is through excellent change management practices. And that comes at three layers, right? The first one is really awareness building. And basically, before going into a transformation, you need to build that awareness across your organizations of why this transformation is going to happen, right? And from there, you're going to move into a capability development where you're equipping all the stakeholders of your transformation process with the skills as well as the knowledge that is required for this transformation. And finally, the adoption support, where you are consciously embedding practices through continuous reinforcement mechanisms. Basically, it could be standard operating procedures, it could be job aids, where you are aiding adoption of the HR product itself plays a very, very key role. Industry leading organizations often use sophisticated persona based journeys. They're tailored to unique concerns globally, locally. They influence patterns for stakeholder segments, right from C-suite to frontline managers into individual contributors or employees at the bottom. The precision approach ensures that capability building initiatives and communication strategies deliver maximum relevance and also they impact organizations across levels. Moving over into balancing global standardizations with local flexibility, we spoke about how change management is extremely important. From there, I think what is important for implementing global HR transformations is how you maintain your global standardization with local flexibility. There are fundamental global HR processes that needs to be designed, and then the regional adaptations that are tailored elements that address local compliance needs that comes into picture. Now, world-class implementations master the art of maintaining that equilibrium of what is a global standard process versus what is a localized process for enhancing operational efficiency and also for strategic customization in the market itself. Industry leaders implement outcome-focused governance frameworks that prioritize standardized results rather than rigid processes, empowering regional teams with controlled autonomy to execute within that parameters that also make sure data integrity, reporting consistency, and strategic alignment is there across the enterprise. Finally, we're going to wrap up the whole thing about how an HR transformation really happens and what are like the next steps of adopting there. Typically, all transformations happen through an assessment and strategy phase where there is comprehensive current state analysis, where there is articulation of future state vision, and there are also developing business use cases of ROI metrics. This is basically sets the foundation of the whole transformation process. From there, we will navigate into design and configuration, where there are global processes discussed with local variations, where there are data governance protocols, data migrations, and integration frameworks are discussed of how the HR system or HCM system is going to integrate with the rest, and then documenting some of these decisions and validating some of these in your environments itself. And from there, we really move into the implementation and adoption through deploying through strategic regional waves, with whether we are going to go big bang in all countries at once, or whether we are going to have regional waves, or are we going to targeted deploy certain specific user journeys in specific countries. So the adoption and implementation is different for different clients, and it can be done in a variety of ways. And finally, optimization and innovation is not just implementation, right? Once organizations go live with your HR solutions, harnessing predictive analysis and machine learning there as well to identify any sort of enhancement opportunities, establishing dedicated COEs that continuously expand the system capabilities that can churn out measurable business outcomes. Transformation extends not just with initial deployment, like I said, but they must institutionalize these improvement mechanisms so that they can fully leverage system capabilities. This not just requires dedicated expertise, it also requires executive sponsorship and a very strong culture that embraces technology innovation as a very strategic advantage to the organization. I'm hoping all of these why, what, and how of how global HR transformation works and can be adopted to the best helped you in learning a little bit of how AI as well as ML contributes in many ways as how HCM implementations are transforming the world. Thank you very much for listening to me.